In this video, we will learn about word problems. First, we will review a definition that describes what word problems are. Then we will look at an example of a word problem. Finally, we will learn a strategy for solving word problems. First, a definition. A word problem is a mathematical problem expressed in words. To understand what this means, let's look at an example. This problem appears on page 89 of the Shin Chu Mon, Mathematics for 7th grade. It is the second problem in section 3. We call it the cuboid problem. Notice that this problem is written in 3 complete sentences. Besides the words, the problem includes numbers and units. Now, let's read the problem. There is a cuboid with a length of 4 centimeters and a width of 10 centimeters. Its height is greater than its width, and its volume is 520 cubic centimeters. How many centimeters greater is the height than the width? Do you see any words or phrases that have special meaning in mathematics? The word cuboid, for example, is a word that is not used in daily life, but it has special meaning in mathematics. Let's review the definition of cuboid. A cuboid is a 3-dimensional solid with 6 rectangular faces at right angles to each other. Here is a picture of a cuboid. You can see that it looks like a box. Each side is a rectangle, but not all sides are the same size and shape. In a cuboid, only the opposite sides are the same size and shape. Now let's go back to the problem. Can you find any other words that have special meaning in mathematics? Here are some other words whose meaning you must know in order to understand and solve this problem. If you do not know the meanings of these words, please check your dictionary. Since we have now read the problem and identified the most important words, the next step is to ask yourself, what is this problem asking? Notice the final sentence. It is a question that asks, how many centimeters greater is the height than the width? This tells us 2 things. 1, the answer must be expressed in centimeters. And 2, the answer must be the difference between the height and the width. So, do we know the values of the height and width? Well, we know the width is 10 centimeters because that is given in the problem. About the height, the problem only says that the height is greater than the width, so we can note that here by using the greater than symbol. However, since the exact height is not given in the problem, we can say that the height is unknown. In mathematics, letters are used to represent unknowns. In this case, let's use a lowercase h to represent the height of the cuboid. Since we are using words such as cuboid, length, width, height, and volume, it may be a good idea to draw a picture. A picture helps us visualize the problem that we are trying to solve. So here is a cuboid. The length is 4 centimeters and the width is 10 centimeters. Since the height is an unknown, we have labeled that using the lowercase h. We also know that the volume of this cuboid is 520 cubic centimeters. So let's include that information in our picture. Remember that this problem asks for the difference between the height and the width. Since we do not know the height of the cuboid, can we use the information in this picture to find the height? In other words, can we write an equation that contains the unknown h and then solve that equation to find the value of h? Please pause the video and write an equation using h and the other information shown in the picture. As you know, the general equation for the volume of a cuboid is volume equals length times width times height. In this case, since we know the values for length, width, and volume, we can substitute those into the equation. Also, we can substitute h for the height, since that is the unknown we would like to solve for. This gives us 4 centimeters times 10 centimeters times h equals 520 cubic centimeters. If we solve for h, we get h equals 520 cubic centimeters divided by 40 square centimeters equals 13 centimeters. Now let's include this information in our picture above. Since we now know the values for the height and width, we can answer the original question, which was, how many centimeters greater is the height than the width? To find the difference between the height and width, we must take the height of 13 centimeters and subtract the width of 10 centimeters. This gives us 3 centimeters. Now let's check our work. You may remember that the equation for the volume of a cuboid was volume equals length times width times height. After substituting in the values for length, width, and height, and performing the calculation, you can see that the volume equals 520 cubic centimeters. That matches the information that was originally given. And checking the difference between the height and the width of the cuboid, we get 13 centimeters minus 10 centimeters equals 3 centimeters. So that too is fine. Going back to the original problem, we can now answer the question, how many centimeters greater is the height than the width? The answer is, the height is 3 centimeters greater than the width. Let's review our strategy for solving word problems. First, read the problem carefully. Then ask yourself, what is the problem asking? Next, draw a picture that shows the information that you know and information that you don't know. Use letters to represent the unknown information. Write one or more equations using the known and unknown information. Then solve the equations. After that, check your work. And finally, answer the question using correct units. Two situations sometimes occur in word problems. There may be unnecessary information, which is information included in the problem that is not necessary for solving it. Or there may be missing information, which is information not included in the problem that is necessary for solving it. First, let's look at an example of unnecessary information. Here is the cuboid problem again. Can you find the unnecessary information? Please pause the video if you need more time. Notice that the second sentence begins with the phrase, "Its height is greater than its width." Although this information is correct, it is not necessary for solving the problem. Therefore, this is unnecessary information. Removing these words from the problem will not affect our ability to understand and solve it. Here is a revised version of the problem excluding the unnecessary information. Now, let's look at an example of missing information. This problem appears on page 83 of the Shinchumon, Mathematics for 7th grade. It is problem 8 at the bottom of the page. Please read this problem carefully. Can you find the missing information? Please pause the video if you need more time. To find the missing information, it is helpful to check the Japanese version of the same problem, which appears on page 83 in the Japanese textbook. Notice that the problem begins with the phrase, "Hayasa ga itte no reisha ga." The equivalent phrase in English is, "a train traveling at constant speed." Returning to the English version, you can see that there is no information about the speed of the train. But we must know the speed of the train as it passes over the bridge and through the tunnel in order to write an equation that will help us solve this problem. So, in this case, the missing information is the speed of the train. Here is the problem again after it has been revised to include information about the speed of the train. Specifically, the problem now states that the train is traveling at constant speed. This version of the problem more closely matches the Japanese version. Using the step-by-step strategy mentioned earlier, please try to solve this problem on your own. Good luck!